What's up, beautiful people? Today we're going to be checking out Vivek Ramaswamy and Tucker Carlson speak on 9/11. Let's get to it.
You, the other day, made a comment about 9/11 in which you suggested that the U.S. government had not been wholly forthcoming about what happened that day, that there had been lying by the federal bureaucracies. That seems obviously true. The response was unbelievable. It was immediate. You were attacked as a conspiracy monger, as a lunatic, but not just by the left, also by the goons at the Wall Street Journal editorial page. Wrote a whole piece about how you disqualified yourself by even asking that question. What were you saying, and why was the reaction as fierce as it was, do you think?
It was fascinating, Tucker. I've had many of these moments in the campaign where they said, this is the campaign ender. This is over. He just blew it. This is one of them. So this is like the fourth or fifth of those. But what was interesting about it was, right, this was not a left-wing chorus, right? This was mostly actually a right-leaning chorus. And Mike Pence, and he was deeply disappointed. Chris Murphy, this Democratic Center guy, says something very similar to Mike Pence. And so it's fascinating. It says there's something going on here. So in fairness, Tucker, I didn't suggest it. I explicitly said that the government absolutely lied to us. The 9/11 Commission lied. The FBI lied. Now, is this a core point of my campaign? No, it's not. I actually went on a comedy show where some guy asked me, was the moon landing fake? I said, I think it was real. Then he asked me, did the government tell us the truth about 9/11? I said, no, they did not. So in response to a question, I'm going to answer honestly.
Yeah.
And the thing I had in mind was the facts. There's this guy, Al Bayoumi. Now, rewind back to 9/11 and the pre-9/11 day. Think of how ludicrous this story is. A 42-year-old graduate student, and there's nothing wrong with being 42 and going back to school. My dad went back to school much later in life, but he's a 42-year-old graduate student who receives the two of the terrorists who flew planes into buildings in the United States of America, not that long later, receives them at the airport in LA, takes them to his house, spends lots of time with them, integrates them into the community. But the account for what he said happened was he met them randomly at the airport. That doesn't make much sense on the face.
Just kind of happened to be at LAX and
no, exactly.
You guys from Saudi.
You know, you look like guys we might get along with, and then suddenly become fast friends at the airport. So much so that he takes them up. So it's a little suspicious. But hey, the 9/11 Commission and the FBI looked into it, and at the time they said his account is accurate.
Yeah, it sounds legit.
It sounds super legit, right? Now there was some
hanging out in LAX.
These guys came from Saudi Arabia.
Very, very fishy. Yeah, I never heard about that part. But actually, Vivek's response when he was asked was very, very, very civil. I think he answered the very best way, because when they asked him, he didn't say it was true or false. He said the government have been lying to us and the government should be more truthful. And that was his response, which I think it was a good response. I don't know why people made smoke out of nothing, out of no fire. I think that's how they say it.
Arabia. Does this guy who received them have any ties to Saudi Arabia? That's where they landed. But now 20 years later, in 2021 and 2022, the FBI quietly declassifies documents. And they have to, 20 years later is the deadline. That suggests that, oh, wait a minute. They did know, actually, that this guy was a Saudi intelligence operative. Interesting how that works. Just slips that right under there 20 years later. Now, there are real consequences for this right now, because there's a federal case of families of victims on 9/11 that want accountability, that are determining answers. So they're suing the Saudi government. And the case turns on whether or not this is true. Because those attackers were from Saudi Arabia. The Bush administration, you'd have the 9/11 Commission, bipartisan. You have the fact of the FBI, CIA, everybody saying that, no, this guy was really just acting independently here. But now we say is a Saudi intelligence operative. There's really the question of whether the Saudi Arabia owes damages to these families. So this is a relevant question. So is this the main point I'm focused on in my campaign? No, I'm not. We have to focus on the future of the country. But if I'm asked a question and I answer honestly based on the facts, I don't think they would have come for me if this was false, if this was ludicrous.
Of course.
Lying
is never punished.
Lying is never punished. But it's speaking the truths you're not supposed to speak. That's what actually attracts the immune response, the NFL.
Right.
Why? I mean, you made I thought a really wonderful point.
I thought so too. Yeah, because when I saw he was getting so much hate and so much criticism, I'm like, what did he really say? And then I watched the interview, I'm like, but this is true. That was the thing that came to my mind. I'm like, this is true. So what is it talking about that people are frying him for? Yeah. Crazy.
Really wonderful point in one of your responses to this, in which you said it's not okay for the government to lie to us, period, in a democracy. It's poison, and it corrodes the system that we revere, democracy. So
with the 9/11 thing and a lot of other things that has been happening of recent from the pandemic as well, like, it used to be a conspiracy theory. Everything used to sound like it's just false. But in modern times, those things begin to fulfill themselves. It felt like a prophecy. And it's like, oh shit, this thing, I thought it was a lie. How is it manifesting today? The 9/11 thing, you would assume, okay, they figured it out. They told us all the facts and all the truth. Today, there's still a case in court. Like, there's still new information coming up. Yeah, so when he said the government should be more truthful, now I don't know if this was an inside job or an outside job or who did it, but I do agree with the fact that the government or the people in control or the powers that be should be more truthful. I definitely agree with that. And I think everybody should agree with that. If we have one thing in common, it should be honesty, integrity, right? Well, this is the end of this video. Share your thoughts as well. Smash the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a wonderful day. Peace. I made this bet on my own.